the Celestial Professor, purveyor of down-to-earth spirituality, where HSPs, high sensitives like you and me, learn all about elevating and celebrating our HSP-ness. This is a revolutionary new approach for those who are searching for much more than the usual cliches about how to cope with our sensitivity. Using techniques like your intuitive guidance system and your unique energetic signature and your psychic octopus, all of which are practically magical in the way they can transform your life, the way they transformed mine. Today's event, the Celestial Professor's first summit on how to elevate and celebrate your own HSP qualities for a high-frequency life, is an incredible opportunity to hear from some of the most accomplished, consciously aware, thoughtful, dedicated, spiritually connected, and brilliant women with whom I have ever had the pleasure of working and forming connective tissues of loving intention. It's the first HSP summit of its kind. And if you feel inspired by it, don't forget to like and share and subscribe and check out what all our speakers have to offer in the links below. Before diving into our subject matter today with my guests, I'd like to take a few moments to introduce you to my approach to high sensitivity. My own journey of awareness and awakening began after many, all too many, years suffering, sometimes in silence, mostly, and sometimes not, from depression, anxiety, panic attacks, generalized fear and overwhelm, as well as a host of other related ills. And the journey really started after the death of my husband. Now it's easy to feel grateful for that dark night of the soul that his transition brought on, but as you can imagine at the time, well, let's just say it was pretty devastating. And since then, I have traveled a road through grief to rebirth, as our guest, Irene Weinberg, would say. My life now as an author, intuitive coach, medium, and guided musician, and in particular, my work with highly sensitive people, is what really floats my boat. Because it's not about getting through or getting over or changing the way I am, the way we are, but discovering, uncovering the ways in which our sensitivities are meant to guide us and inspire us and embrace us, celebrate us, and elevate us. Which is why I'm so deeply moved and honored by my guests' willingness to participate in the Celestial Professor's first summit, introducing my soon-to-be-published new book, Elevate Your HSP-ness, How to Live a High-Frequency Life That Amplifies Your Vibration, Celebrates Your Sensitivities, and Uplifts the World. I'm fortunate to be able to call all these individuals, all of whom are high sensitives, my colleagues and friends, whom I love for all they are and all the joy they bring to the world. And a big thanks go out to all of you for being here and for being you. So, with that, it's my great honor to welcome my first guest, Irene Weinberg. Irene is the author of the widely acclaimed book, They Serve Bagels in Heaven, a loving and wise, transcendental love story, surprisingly similar to my own in some ways, because it begins with the amazing messages Irene received before, during, and just after her husband's death. In her case, in a tragic car accident, with her at his side. As the insights began to roll in, Irene learned many profound lessons which have continued to form the essence of her work and who she is now, and have segued into her inspiring and popular podcast called Grief Rebirth, Finding the Joy in Life. When I met Irene at the Afterlife Conference in 2014, we were both selling our newly published books. So it's incredible to witness each other's growth over this time. I can't say enough about her genuine loving nature and commitment to service. Having been on her podcast, I can also say without reservation that what she offers is unparalleled in its value for people who are grieving, people who want to delve into their own spirituality, for HSPs everywhere, and for the world. Irene, take it away.
Thank you, Heidi. This is Irene Weinberg of Grief Rebirth Podcast, and it is my pleasure to talk with you about my experience being a highly sensitive person. I have been a highly sensitive person all my life. I was born wired this way, and all my life I've been told by people that I'm too sensitive for one reason or another. And it's presented a lot of problems to me because I always felt, well, maybe there was a little something wrong with me. Two of the ways my highly sensitive traits have manifested for me is that highly sensitive people are known to be extremely good with people. They read people well, and they're very intuitive. And I definitely have that trait. But another trait that's not so terrific of a highly sensitive person is that they are very, very sensitive to criticism. And I definitely also have that trait. So how has this manifested in my life? Well, your question brought me back to an incident that happened to me when I was about 26 years old. I was the head of a very large women's clothing department in a huge department store in Maryland. And I had 45 women working for me, older women. At the time, like I said, I was about 26. All the women were in their 50s or older. And it was my job to get them to maximize sales, take care of the merchandise, and charm the customers so that we didn't have a lot of problems and the people would come back. And just in general, run the business of all these departments. About 6 months into this job, my new boss came to me and he said, you know, Irene, it's time for your 6-month review. And I said, oh, okay. And he took me in his office and he said, I have to tell you that there is something, I have never seen anyone with the people skills that you have. I cannot even get over how you have 45 women who are, you're getting each one of them to work to the height of her potential. They love you. You're doing a great job with them. I have absolutely no comments or corrections for you to make for you in that department. But you do have a problem in that you're too sensitive to criticism. Okay, so this was the first time I ever really officially heard that comment, which got added to the "you're too sensitive" comments all my life. And different circumstances in my life brought me into therapy for my dysfunctional family background and different things. And while I was in therapy, I also brought up the fact that I was too sensitive to criticism. And through the years, I learned that it's just as part of the way I'm wired. It's my highly sensitive trait. And by the way, I also learned that 20% of our population happens to be highly sensitive people. So I must say the way that all the therapy and healing that I've done has helped me is that it's taught me not to overreact when I do get sensitive to criticism. I'm better able now to kind of hear it and to take action on it or not and make a judgment about it within my own being without feeling that I'm horribly flawed in some way. So all this healing that I've done has helped me to accept myself in many more loving ways. And it also, this ability to intuit about people and relate to people actually has had a very big silver lining in my life, because my podcast, Grief Rebirth, Finding the Joy in Life, is very popular. And I've had people tell me that I'm the best interviewer they've ever had, which is such a huge compliment. I've had a few people say, I've had many, many interviews. You're the best interviewer I've ever had. And I credit this ability to my highly sensitive personality trait, because it enables me, I kind of have a sense about people and how to approach them or what to ask them or how to handle different subjects in an interview. It just comes naturally to me. So this is a very positive aspect of my life now, thanks to my highly sensitive personality trait. And since you asked us to tell you our contact information and all, I'm going to give our listeners the information, how they can get onto my podcast. Grief Rebirth Podcast, I interview healers, mediums, grief and trauma specialists, and people who have been through trauma in their lives and come through it to the other side and transitioned into wonderful lives for themselves. And I have incredibly inspiring stories on the podcast. I also interview incredible authors and people in the spiritual world. And I must say, I think I've interviewed you 2 times, Heidi, 3 times, and we have had absolutely fabulous interviews, you and I. I'm sure you would agree. And I hope that everyone listening to this summit on high sensitives will want to subscribe to my podcast, Grief and Rebirth, Finding the Joy in Life. You can find it all over social media. You can find it's popular on YouTube. And you can also check out my website, www.Irene, I-R-E-N-E, Weinberg, WEINBERG.com. And there you'll find information about my podcast, the book I wrote about my spiritual awakening when my husband died next to me in a tragic car accident, and the messages that I got around that time when I was a complete non-believer, and the story that emanated from that. And from checking out my website, you'll see how my book and my story segued into this popular podcast that I now have. And it's helping so many people. I'm getting wonderful compliments about how it's helping people heal, people who have different issues. They are able to find people to help them on the site and all. And I'm sure Heidi, beautiful, wonderful Heidi, will be glad to attest to the fact that the interviews are wonderful, because she has had quite a few on the podcast, and it has been absolutely my honor and pleasure to interview her. So with that, I send you all great blessings from this highly sensitive heart to your highly sensitive hearts. We rock. There's nothing wrong with this. We just have a few extra traits, adding it in that could be really wonderful, and a few others that with handling can also be really wonderful. So with that, bye for now. Many blessings, and especially for you, Heidi.
Thank you so much, Irene. I love everything you say and how you say it, and I feel it straight in my heart. Next up is another friend and colleague, Sherri Cortland. Where do I even begin? Sherri's enthusiastic approach and unquenchable thirst for all things metaphysical, along with her insuppressible exuberance, captured my heart from our first conversation. Apparently, from a very young age, Sherri was already reading her mother's bookshelf for any and all books about reincarnation and karma, numerology, and life after life. But that didn't satisfy Sherri for long, because many books and authors later, she felt inspired to obtain wisdom and knowledge of her own and on her own, to obtain it directly. So it was at this point that she began her journey into automatic writing. Since way back in 1987, Sherri has been communicating with Jeremy and her other guides, whom she collectively and affectionately calls the GG, or the Guide Group. The information channeled from her guides over the years is contained in her numerous published books and in her over 300 magazine articles. As a writer for her Windows of Opportunity monthly newsletter and recipient of her endless wisdom, I am forever grateful for our friendship and collaboration. As I always say after each communication with Sherri, I couldn't do it without you. Thank you for your presence here today. Welcome, Sherri.
Thank you, Heidi. I was born an empath like Counselor Troy, but I have spent most of the last 65 years of my life trying to become a Vulcan like Mr. Spock. In fact, I am so HSP that I cry at the drop of a hat, tears of happiness, sadness, and you know what? Not necessarily for anything happening in my own life either. And this is exactly why I prefer to watch TV alone, so I don't have to be embarrassed when I start bawling my eyes out during commercials. So, this book about how to live a high-frequency life is not only chock full of ways to come out from behind that box of tissues and embrace my sensitive nature, it's also given me ways to unabashedly elevate my own HSP-ness and feel great about who I am. Being super sensitive, I often find myself taking on the woes of others. That's the empath in me. And Heidi's book includes a technique to ground ourselves into our own bodies, and this has been such a great help. It's quick, it's easy, and it's effective. Now, one of the things that struck me the most was the realization that embracing my HSP-ness involved becoming aware of what it really means and how being HSP not only helps me raise my own vibrational energy, but the vibrational energy of those around me. As my guide group continually channels, it's a warrior soul that incarnates on planet Earth. It's not an easy job to attract and hold the light. And part of that job here is to increase our own vibrational energy as we positively affect the energy of those around us and our planet. After reading this book, I realized that by suppressing my own emotions, I was hampering the raising of vibrational energy, which is another reason that I'm not going to care that I'm an ugly crier. I will just expose those emotions, and you know what? If they bring tears, I'll just powder my face. Now, over the years, I've channeled 4 books about spiritual growth and how to live our lives with less drama and pain. I now view embracing being an HSP as an integral part of moving ourselves forward. How can we look for windows of opportunity in our lives if we waste time berating ourselves for something that is pure positive energy? How can we take a look at where we've been, where we are now, and where we want to be if we are continually scolding ourselves for being who we are? You know what? I don't think we can. And it also seems to me, reflecting back on what my guides have shared and what Heidi has channeled, that it's impossible for us to truly help others and our planet increase their vibrational energy until we get to work on ourselves. Understanding windows of opportunity, relationship villains, and how we put together our spiritual to-do list for each incarnation, those are things that my guides want us to know about. And as important as that knowing is, taking action is even more important. And that action, those changes, they start within. And Heidi's psychic octopus exercise, it helps us align our own unique energy signature, and I think it's a great place to get started. Elevating HSP-ness, for me, is akin to a survival guide for those of us who have been ashamed of and try to hide our feelings for so long. It gives us permission to be our true selves, and it gives us the techniques to help make it so. So thank you, Heidi. Thank you so much for channeling this information. I know that I will be incorporating it into all of my spiritual growth workshops going forward. Namaste. If you're interested in learning more about what my guides have channeled about raising our vibrational energy, windows of opportunity, relationship villains, and of course, living our lives with less drama and pain, my books are on Amazon.com. I also write a monthly online column for Eden Magazine. Julia Cannon, the daughter of the late great Dolores Cannon, has added my workshops about increasing our vibrational energy and chakra balancing to the Cannon Metaphysical Academy. Check out my website at sherri-cortland.com for some great articles, podcast and radio appearances, and much, much more. You can also follow me on TikTok at Sherri Cortland, and every Friday, my guide group channels a message on Facebook. Thank you for checking me out.
Thank you, Sherri. I'm always amazed by how succinct you are and how clearly you state what you know and what you want to share. Thank you. I first met Dana when I signed up for one of her somatic money seminars. From that moment on, I was hooked. Dana's breadth and depth of knowledge on all things related to the way the body and spirit respond to external matters, and particularly monetary matters, is staggering. The coach and founder of Somatic Money, Dana brings revolutionary body-based money relationship work to life by encouraging her clients and audiences to explore authentic money relationships with truly unique tools for deeper personal introspection and life-altering value. Somatic money was a true necessity of invention birthed from tragedy, a tragic loss that triggered Dana's need for better life answers. She now successfully coaches professionals and business owners from across the country with innovative somatic money practices, concepts, and tools. Her Somatic Money Coaching Podcast has become a huge hit, especially with me, inviting people to join her for on-air live sessions, either as guest or listener. As both, I personally have experienced an unprecedented shift in my own energy around money and finances. What can I say? But the wisdom, the love, the empowerment Dana offers will simply blow your mind. She's also booting up informative and fun videos of her work on TikTok now and offering exciting somatic money classes. Welcome, Dana.
Hey, thank you, Heidi. So everybody, I am Dana Stovern, founder and coach of The Magic of Somatic Money. And one of the biggest underpinnings of my entire business of who I am and what I do is that I am a highly sensitive person. And underneath that heading is definitely I'm an empath, I'm a channel, I'm a psychic, I am a seer healer person. And I think the thing I want to say about being an HSP is that when I first learned that I was an HSP, I didn't know that I was all this other stuff either. And learning that I was an HSP, a highly sensitive person, and being able to embrace it, basically then opened up the gateway, the doorway for me to fully embrace who I fully am. And if I hadn't have done that, I think I would have walked around on the planet being a half or partial person for the rest of my life. And so coming into tune and recognizing and learning that I'm an HSP, it happened a long time ago. Like when Heidi asked me to talk about this, I was like, wow, that's a long time ago. It was 20 years ago. It was right around 9/11. And I read the book by Elaine Ahrens about the highly sensitive person and, the continuum of the least sensitive people on the planet to the most sensitive people on the planet. And she, diagnosed and laid that all out. And then she showed us, the characteristics of a highly sensitive person, an HSP. And I was like, that's me. And at the same time of recognizing that, it helped me put into place that, oh, this is why I've been having light experiences, like visceral light experiences, like visitations from light beings and being able to channel writing that became poetry, and later being able to sit down and talk with people and give them insights to help with their own healing. Like that all falls under the heading of being highly sensitive. And this connection at first of being an HSP and everything that comes with it, it really helped me put pieces of the puzzle together. It helped me embrace who I am so that I could become the full person that I am today. And I'm really grateful and thankful for that. Has it been easy? Not necessarily, but it has been good. It is good. And because I know who I am, I know my place on this planet, I know what I came for, I know what I'm here to do, and I'm doing that. In spite of the odds, and in spite of it not being something that people thought I could do in the first place. So I think the thing I can tell you is that if you know your HSP and you embrace it, it begins to give you a chance to play your cards in your favor instead of people trying to rationalize you away. And that's powerful. So that's what I will leave you with. All right. Thanks. Mwah.
I am really in awe of your ability to frame money and finances in a way that alters life on a grand scale. I have called money love energy units, LEUs, for several years now. But as you know, I was struggling with my own issues around dealing with money. And recognizing through working with you that my couch talk work and your somatic money work is so similar on so many levels, and that I could apply one to the other was really a miraculous revelation for me. And I owe the change that came from it, my transformation, to you. So thank you. And now it's time to meet Claudia. Claudia Helt, another longtime connection of mine from all the way back in 2006 when I lived in Taos, New Mexico. Claudia is the only person here who knew me when my husband Randy was still alive. Her story is also similar to mine in that it was only after many years of life, and for her 2 decades in a fully engaged private psychotherapy practice, that her life took a drastic turn. Suddenly, Claudia was receiving messages from unseen voices and hearing and having conversations with them. Driven to pursue this new spiritual journey, she found herself drawn to what she calls the silence, which assisted her in discovering her inner abilities. This transformative process led her to become a Reiki master and the founder of the Center for Peaceful Transitions, where the opportunities to be of service are endless and endlessly satisfying. Since then, Claudia has celebrated 25 years of bringing messages forth through books and other media. She is an author on call, an energy worker, an artist, facilitator of small groups, but above all, a listener who holds what she hears near to her heart and shares that which she is guided to share. Welcome, Claudia.
Thank you, Heidi, for hosting this wonderful event today. I must admit that I'm very excited to be here. It's delightful to be in your presence again, and it's a privilege to meet other people of like minds and heart. And I would like to take the opportunity today to speak my truth about the importance of this event summit. I am so grateful that Heidi is bringing this important topic to the forefront. It's high time that this beautiful reality of life is acknowledged. This event matters. Everyone who is here today participating in the event matters. As Heidi elaborates upon in her writings, we are the ones who are going to play a significant role in humankind's future. We are the ones who will assist others in discovering and reclaiming their humanity. Now, I realize that this sounds grandiose and huge, but it's simply the truth. And I suspect that each and every one of you knows this truth from deeply within you. Our world needs to know more about the reality that we are all blessed with amazing yet natural abilities. Those of us who are aware of our abilities are not special, but we are informed. And over the years, we have learned to trust our abilities and accept them. In essence, we have come to trust who we really are. And the rest of society also needs to be informed. Those of us who have already endured the challenges of coming out as an HSP know what it was like to feel those insecurities, those moments of confusion. We all have stories to share about those experiences. The highs, the lows, the accelerations, the pauses. But what I realize now that all of those experiences, the ups and the downs, all of them were absolutely necessary. They were the stepping stones of our maturational process as an HSP. Those of you who are in the early stages of coming out, please know that you are not alone. And I mean that in the most expansive way that one can imagine. People all over the world are revealing their true selves now and speaking the truth about their abilities. You truly are not alone in this process. However, in those moments when you think that you are, remember your celestial companions. Remember your guides. They are always with you. Please, please, please remember this. And when you're feeling fragile, turn to your companions for assistance and reassurance. They are so skillful in helping us to feel good about ourselves. And while they're taking care of you, pay attention. Learn from their teachings. They are excellent role models, so learn everything you possibly can so that you can do the same for others. My own personal story began in my 50th year. I was a late bloomer. I was in my prime as a psychotherapist in private practice. I was thriving. I loved my work. I loved being a therapist. It was such a privilege to be able to listen to the stories that people shared. It was a very, very happy time in my life. And then, from out of nowhere, I was hit by the spiritual 2x4, which created a considerable amount of chaos in my life. Imagine what it was like for a therapist to begin hearing voices, having visions, and experiencing automatic writing. Needless to say, there are many stories to share about that time of my life. But the relevant point is this. I was curious, and the messages that I was receiving were so profoundly beautiful that I could not turn my back on them. They were amazing. I knew something important was happening to me, and I wasn't about to stop the process. So I continued, and I persevered. Since then, my life has profoundly changed. I let go of my practice, adventured into the field of energy work. I became a Reiki master, and that career was as fulfilling as my career as a therapist, and it offered me a way of continuing to be of service. During that transitional phase, my attention was primarily focused upon the messages that I was receiving. And it was during this time that I met Heidi, who just happened to live in the same condo complex that I lived in. And she helped me publish my first book, which was a compilation of the awe-inspiring messages that I had been receiving before I met her. Since that time, 13 more books have been received and published. Another one is in process, and according to my guides, more are coming. So far, all of the books, with the exception of the first one, have been presented in fictional format. And through these fictional stories, truths are brought forward that awaken us to the reality of our world. The simple topics that are addressed in these books are the truth about eternity, the truth about connection with those from beyond, the truth about Earth's declining health, and the truth about humankind's need to reclaim their humanity. In addition to my author on-call duties, I also enjoy facilitating conversations from the heart, both virtually and in person. Even though I'm supposed to be retired, life is still very, very busy, and it is filled with wonder and purpose. I thank Heidi again for initiating this event summit, and I congratulate you, Heidi, on your new book.
When I first met you, the Center for Peaceful Transitions was just a dream, and you were hoping to publish your first book. I think you said you had 30 books now that you have channeled from the light. And our recently renewed connection has reminded me of the brilliance of spirit in bringing us together. Of course, I feel that Randy had a hand in it all, or two. And I know that he is with us here today to remind us that we are all one. And that whatever our journey of awakening includes, it is perfect and is always perfect. So thank you, Claudia. Once again, it's another opportunity to introduce my next guest, Jill Lebeau, midwife for Awakening Souls. Jill is a masterful spiritual psychotherapist and author, a blissful guide for living in the magical flow. And I have to say, I don't think I've ever met anyone who bubbles over with such effervescent love energy from the moment she opens her eyes every single day. Since I met Jill, we have spent hours on the phone talking to each other and talking each other into ever more courageous ways to increase our own levels of vibration, to do things we never thought we could do before. We end up laughing half the time over our own irreverence and wit, which never fails to crack us up even more. So it's not surprising that Jill loves teaching her clients how effective and empowering and fun it is to shift their inner perspective rather than needlessly struggle in an exhaustive attempt to control outer conditions and other people and themselves. Jill's approach is truly enlightening, teaching people to really live and embrace a joyful, extraordinary, miraculous life through ease, which is the natural vibration of us all, and which then summons the manifestation of our heart's desires. Jill is a powerful uplifter of unbounded enthusiasm, playfulness, humor, and clarity, who lights the way forward and emboldens people to set themselves free. For her portion of this summit, Jill was willing to take a brave dive into Zoom technology in the form of her conversation with me. Welcome to the summit, Jill. I'm so happy to have you here.
It's time for us to be we're the people that are shifting things in the world.
That's right.
I mean, coming in with this sensitivity, that's a superpower. It has a purpose. You know, we didn't like make a boo-boo saying, oh, include that sensitivity. And so
I think we really are saving humanity.
we are, because, and that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, like I love what I do as a psychotherapist, as a podcaster, and I love that, thanks to you, feng shuiing any piece of, you're like, oh, why are you questioning your receiving? You're so integrated, it's so embodied, you don't even notice. It's like when you cross over, you're not going to notice. So I'm like, good. So I don't have to focus on that, which has created the feng shui, the space,
yes,
for me to feel even more in love with my emotional sensitivities.
Oh,
because
I just love that.
Right. And I can feel everybody's vibration. I can feel people's vibration. It's the easiest thing in the world for me to do and be, to raise my own. And then, of course, to pull with like titles like yours. What raises our vibration more than laughter? Nothing.
Exactly. So the biggest question I wanted to ask you was really about how, just what you said, you take on the vibration, you feel it. You don't take it on
totally.
necessarily. You feel the vibration of everything and everyone around you.
Yeah.
So how is it, because this Elevating Your HSP-ness Sensitivities, that book, right? That's all about how we do that comfortably, right? How we do it and stay in our own alignment.
Exactly.
And how to make that easy. So how have you you went from being, I guess, a high sensitive kid, and you
Mhm.
learned you were sensitive. How did this all come about that you learned how to stay in your, I think of it as your own bliss.
Yeah,
'Cause you are
exactly.
so blissful all the time.
That is exactly it. That is totally it. Absolutely. I didn't understand that I was sensitive, but I've always trusted, I trust myself. You know how the standard thing is that kids assume it must be them
Mhm.
if mommy and daddy are wigged out.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is wrong with them? You know? And so it's like, I didn't understand where all our emotional pain was rooted in. And they, of course, didn't talk about it, because the more dysfunctional the system, the less we talk about things, the more secrets there are. But I really couldn't get why they were the way they were. I mean, I get it now. I get that we all called it in. We designed all of this. It's by divine design. And I love my life. And speaking of bliss, I've always felt as though the way I feel is the most important thing to me. So like when Abraham talks about, you got to care about the way you feel, I'm like, okay, old news, next. What else?
Yeah.
I've always cared about it. And of course, this is interesting too, because when you care about how you feel, then in a dysfunctional family, you're told that like this came through from my mother today. Like she used to say, buy me, get me, give me, take me, which of course, like, yeah. And
What does that mean?
Well, it was her way of saying, I'm so selfish.
I see.
And this is a great question for you to ask, because what do we know now within the awakening and, receiving so much support from non-physical is, they encourage us. They say, yeah, nurture yourself, put the oxygen mask on yourself, care about the way you feel. And that's the bottom line, is that people in my field have succeeded in making it sound so complicated, but the truth is it's not. It could not be more simple or easy to raise our vibration than it is now.
So, but even that idea of having to raise it seems like an effort for people. Don't you find that's true? I don't believe it is, but I'm wondering for you. I'm always trying to figure out ways to shift the language a little bit so it doesn't sound, everything doesn't sound like an effort. So here we are saying it's easy, right?
Yeah.
So when you're in that situation, what do you do to stay in that high vibration?
I focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
I expect to feel good. And I want this to come across in our interview. That is the primary gift in having that heightened sensitivity. Because we're given a guidance system. It's a divine guidance system. Whenever we are aligned with the power of our soul, our spirit, our inner being, however you want to look at it, we feel good.
Right, you're there.
That's it. And if we don't feel good, it's like happy or crappy. Take your pick. If we're feeling crappy, that's our soul. It's our inner being signaling us, just like a GPS in a car going, you got to recalculate here if you want to. You don't have to, because it's all a game, nothing serious. But if you want to feel better, you need to recognize there's some feng shuiing to do. There's old beliefs. It's like the universe saying, look, we want to upgrade you. Because the universe, speaking of elevating, the universe is always trying to elevate us. Always, always, always going, you want an upgrade here, an upgrade there, here, an upgrade there, everywhere, an upgrade. But we stop the process when we're not feeling aligned with our soul, when we're not feeling good. We're pressing the pause button. And it's like the universe is patiently waiting, going, we got all the time in the world, so do you, whether you realize it or not.
So if you're feeling in alignment and you're doing fine, then when someone else isn't around you, does it affect you? Or how does it affect you?
I'm going to say, that's a great question. That's such a good question, because I'm going to say less and less and less, because there has been that, I don't have a lot of codependent tendencies, but I will say that I've always had this vision of, I want to create a healthy family, a really healthy family. And that was a drive. I'm a transformer soul. So that was a drive that was in me from the time I was, very, very small. but I lived in fear of, well, what if I can't do this? So it's obviously something I came in with as a pre-birth intention. So when I feel, and we're not a quiet family, we're loud. We laugh loud.
I never would have guessed.
Like there's intensity here.
Yeah.
There's aliveness going on. But if that aliveness is turning into what seems like a power struggle or something else that's not, life in the sandbox, I have, even up until like a week or so ago, I want to like throw myself into the mix, and I'm thinking, I'm a psychotherapist, spiritual, I can fix this, and give me 5 minutes, everybody will be back to kumbaya. I realized in the last week, which apparently has been a week of great intensity, I'm told by people, the last couple of weeks, full moon, empty, whatever, new moon, was something, celestial aspects. You're the celestial professor, so you would know.
On some level or another.
The ones that matter.
I didn't know what it was. Yeah.
And you don't need to, as long as you feel it. But I realized I tried to like facilitate unasked. There's nothing like throwing yourself into a situation where you're not asked. And then I realized the beauty of it was, I realized my bliss level is being impinged upon. So feeling that, there's the sensitivity. I was like, who the hell asked me to get involved in this? Like, that was me, not them. And I thought, let me get back in my bliss. I went and took a shower. And it felt so good to just withdraw my putting myself in the middle. Then the next revelation that happened was, I had a conversation with a girlfriend a day or so prior to this, and we were talking about acceptance. Acceptance is not a word that's really ever floated my boat. It's not like bliss or thrilled or elevate or, enthralled. It's just acceptance. Because I moved myself out of where I was never asked to, in what is the word? Get in the middle of something. I then thought, what if I said to myself, okay, what was I experiencing? It was like intensity. There was emotional intensity. And I asked myself, what do I know emotional intensity is? It's like, it's energy and motion, and it's intense. Big deal. Doesn't matter. And I was like, but doesn't it? Don't we need to sing? Isn't that what we're told? That we're supposed to be singing Kumbaya 24/7. And if something happens in our families, which is the ripe, fertile field for triggering to happen, it's going to happen there.
Right.
And then if there's something that doesn't feel like harmony, instead of thinking, oh, something dreadful is happening here, what am I going to do to stop it? It was like, I asked myself, what if I just accepted this? And I thought, I can accept that it's just energy. It's just energy.
That's so amazing, because the question that's been the last few minutes for me has been, what's the difference between, I want to be okay with how I feel. I'm more interested, I am, since you said you grew up knowing that it was important how you feel, the difference between the emotional feel and just knowing it's energy, and not having to label it as this feeling. Intensity is not saying it feels one way or the other.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
Right? You still feel it in your body, the intensity, but you don't have to label it as good or bad or upsetting or.
Right. But the thing is, once we feel it in our body, that's simply, or we notice our vibration is shifting, not in the direction where we're spiraling downward. We love to spiral up. It's fun to spiral up. But even if we feel it in our body or whatever, it's okay. It's like, okay, when we get a notification, do we keep looking at it and rereading it and obsessing about it? Or do we go, oh, yeah, I noticed it. Okay, I got a text. I read it. Let's move on. Next moment. So we don't, as soon as we go, thanks for the message, we thank the messenger, whether it's somatic or emotional, whatever it is, it's all energy. Then you take the bounce back, and then we come back into bliss, which is our true home. But we don't have to die to get there.
Exactly.
We can live there, because we are here to amplify, and we're definitely here to celebrate and to not heal the world in the way that we think of it, like, okay, we're in a broken world and we came here to fix it, because we did not. And there is nothing broken in this world. But I get it now. Each of us is a universe unto ourselves, and we get to choose our perception. And when we choose the perception of loving ourselves unconditionally, mind, body, and soul, now this universe over here is humming in bliss. And maybe it's not 24/7. It doesn't have to be. No, it doesn't have to be. What is your predominant vibration, which we can change? And there's been a lot of emphasis on, well, it's so hard. It takes, thousands of lifetimes, and none of that is true. So I'm here about truth, because that's oneness.
Yeah.
And the shift is happening from, the third dimensional reality is on its way out.
Yeah.
And it'll take however long it's meant to take. But when we recognize the oneness, for example, when you speak about, you don't know how to do these things, and you're just diving in, and it's like there's a high dive, and you're like, I guess I'll dive in and see what happens. So that inspires me. Okay. So then I'm going, okay, Zoom. All right, fine. I'll get the camera. I'll do this, all this stuff. And, maybe I'll blow my hair for 2 seconds or whatever. And so we are one, different bodies, different universes, but ultimately from the same source. So that's the law of oneness. And when one person, what do we know? This is one of my favorite things in the whole world. One person aligned with the truth of who they are and their source has more power, not than 1 million. It's not 1 million. It's millions, plural, of people, has more power than millions of people. So when we shine our light, because we're in such a state of joy and gratitude and appreciation and awe that we're here in this time of awakening, it's like being a kid in a candy store. I mean, there's so much wonderfulness that we've been waiting for, not just in this life, but in thousands of lifetimes. When we're shining that light, other people pick up on it. Basically, the choices come down to one of two things. Are you the creator of your reality? Because if you don't recognize, if you don't awaken to the fact that you're the creator of your reality, then you've got choice B, and there's no judgment about it. But now you're a victim. And it's the way that we perceive ourselves, which is where being highly sensitive and getting those nuances and feeling it, it's never been easier to live tuned in, tapped in, turned on.
It really is kind of a magical thing to be in the presence of someone who just radiates love and open-heartedness and such brilliance. And I have to say that every time I'm saying thank you to someone, it just feels like I have more love in my heart. So I guess I'll leave it there. And thank you for participating today. Our next guest is Heidi Winkler. For much of my life, when people met me, they'd ask why I wasn't blonde. So when I met Heidi on Zoom for the first time, my first thought was, now that's what a Heidi is supposed to look like. Since then, I have come to learn just how many similarities, aside from hair color, we share, especially in our commitment to the greater good. For more than 4 decades, Heidi has worked in both the nonprofit and for-profit worlds, over 30 years of them as a sales director for large companies. As the founder and CEO of the Winkler Leadership Academy, Heidi has written numerous books and courses on sales, leadership, and other business-related topics. She's also recently published a book and partner course called Introduction to Tarot, her first foray into sharing her metaphysical experiences with the world. She's here today to share her highly sensitive person experiences with us. Congratulations on your book, Heidi. I'm honored to welcome you to today's summit.
Heidi, it's a pleasure to be here. During my tenure as a sales director, I learned that not everyone learns the same way. To create successful sales teams, I quickly found that I needed to do the following: find out what made each individual sales rep tick, find out what motivated them as individuals, and figure out their personality types so I would better understand how to manage each of them. I wish that Heidi had written Elevating Your HSP-ness years ago. As helpful as taking the time to learn what makes people tick, what motivates them, and how to manage them in forging a successful team, this book takes understanding people as individuals to a new level. No team is successful without each individual member working to their fullest capacity. In my mind, learning to recognize a highly sensitive person is an important management skill. Here's why. Until I read this book, I was of the opinion that being overly sensitive meant I was in for a more difficult time managing that HS person on my team. Now I have a much better understanding of what it means to be HSP and how to recognize this trait in the people I work with and train. It allows me to adapt and modify my management and training style to better fit the people I'm working with. And please don't think that I'm implying that an HS person has special needs. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, looking back now on my past history managing people, I can clearly see that those sales reps who are more emotional, more sensitive, make the best salespeople. They're quicker to adapt to their customers, what their underlying motivations and needs are, and therefore write more business. Again, I wish I had this book years ago, but I have it now, and I'm already looking to see how I can use the techniques and concepts Heidi provides to improve myself, my leadership style, and my professional recommendations to others on how to succeed in their chosen professions. Thank you, Heidi, for writing this book. Please start your next book right now. And if anyone's interested in my upcoming book, Tarot for Personal Use, the paperback will be available on October 15th, and it's available for pre-order on Kindle on Amazon.com. I also have a variety of business courses on WinklerLeadershipAcademy.com. Hope to meet all of you soon.
And thank you, Heidi. I just love your energy. You're so together and smart and thoughtful and perceptive. You just grab onto things so quickly and manage them all. I am once again just awed by not just your accomplishments, right? Because that's one thing, that's what you do, but who you are and how you present in the world. So I'd like to thank you also for being here with us today. And that, my wonderful high sensitives, my wonderful HSPs, is just the tip of the iceberg on how to begin elevating your HSP-ness. The attributes that you may have believed or continue to believe undermine you, when they are really blessings, gifts, the most amazing things about you. Of course, in order to truly integrate that information, to take it from your mind, from your head, into your heart is what really matters. Because once it's there, and you develop the self-awareness, the self-love, and the self-worth to embrace your sensitivities, it is only a short step to celebrating them, amplifying them, and uplifting the world. Thank you for being here today. Please like and share and subscribe below so that you can get more information, classes, courses, workshops, books, information about private sessions in the future. Also, below are links to contact information on all the beautiful speakers you heard here today. Again, thank you from the Celestial Professor.